Hello, everyone.
Hello.
We're live. Okay, see ya. Bye. It's been great. We've forgotten what to do. We have a very special guest today. We have Daniel Lee. Who's pumped to meet Dan Lee?
Very, very pumped.
Raise your hand. All sorts of things to discuss with Dan. And Dan is sitting in the green room, patiently waiting while we talk absolute rubbish. But first off, let's begin with our Patreon member shout out. We have to give a big shout out to Paul, who is our one and only Patreon. Thank you so much, Paul. Paul is our boy. In fact, let's put Paul right here.
Let's photo of Paul.
Bit of scrollage along the bottom of the screen. Thank you, Paul. In case people don't know, there's lots of ways you can support the show. One of them is via Patreon. This just supports the production of the show. It doesn't go to charity. This is just for the production of the show. But other ways that you can support the show are to trying to do this in mirror. It just does not work. There you go. Thanks, Neo. You can donate via our QR code. If you're using the VeVe app, we've had lots of donations. We had about 1,000 gems. So we had about 1,000 gems worth of donations like a couple of weeks ago.
Thank you so much.
It was really amazing. And there's lots of people getting in touch with us who want to do that. So by all means, we would love that. Thank you so much. Now we need to do a bit of a wrap on where our did you hear that?
Yeah.
My daughter losing her absolute shit. Mommy!
That was us missing on the Disney drop the other day, losing our marbles.
Grim.
Trampy! So Joe, can you give us a bit of a run through of what our portfolio is looking at?
I can. Is that
there we go.
stable?
Oh yeah.
All right. Great. So for everyone playing along at home, we've got one Harley Quinn. We have one Elsa, one Lions United, one OG Devil Bunny Black, one Snow Globe Polar Bear, and one Storm Mistress of the Elements. So they're the collectibles. Anyone else been watching Elsa closely?
Yeah, she's dropped a bit.
Really subject to the strange vicissitudes of the market. But not a good one to watch. So comics, we've got Amazing Spider-Man #1, Fantastic Four #5, and another Fantastic Four #1.
Lovely.
Great.
So if you chuck in the roughly 80 gems that we have in our wallet, that gets us to a current project net worth of 5,319 gems, Patterson.
That's right.
Just a joke for the four of us, really. So we're doing nicely here. We're doing nicely. I don't know about you guys, but have you found it a little bit sort of awkward trying to make the next move over these last couple of weeks? Like we kind of haven't known whether to sell off what we have and buy stuff while it's low, or there's that uncertainty. How are you guys feeling?
I think it's tough.
The bottom end.
Because when you try and sell off, you're selling at a loss to some extent. To just, as I think you've described it previously, you're just trying to jump to that next monkey bar.
Yeah.
And that next rung on the ladder. So you sell off
And
and
we
you're
had
trying to chase the other price, which could go simultaneously as you're selling.
The last bull run was about 4 weeks ago, where things went ape shit.
Yep.
So that's also interesting. We're in that. It's funny, the market cycle. Everyone's seen that chart, haven't they? The sort of psychology of a market cycle. I don't know if you can bring it up. But yeah,
No.
we hit that. We totally hit that euphoria stage in the short term with this pump, and it was like It was complete madness. And then now we're in the consolidation phase, like, I guess.
Well, this would be a great thing to talk about with Dan. I know Dan has lots of thoughts about the psychology behind these types of movements. So, and this is something that I have no idea about at all. We'll have lots to talk to Dan about. And Dan does sometimes attract controversy within the VeVe community because he speaks truth and he's not afraid to say it. So let's bring Dan in now. Dan, hello, welcome.
You're muted, Dan.
Oh no, you're muted. Dan, you've been cancelled. All the other VeVe users have decided to cancel you.
Dan,
I probably deserve it, to be honest.
Did they have COVID in the States? Did everyone have to work from home? Because we've got really good at like using Zoom here in Australia.
Yeah, it kind of depends. So if you lived in like New York or San Francisco with a lot of like tech-based jobs, those people, a lot of those jobs were able to be done at home. But if you're living where I am, more of a rural area, Oklahoma, I mean, some people got sent home if they had some job that they were able to do that, but a lot of people still worked for a while, a long time.
Now, if all of our audience will know you, Dan, but for anyone who's not familiar, Dan is a go-to content mater for all things content mater. You're a content mater, Dan. I don't know if you know that because you produce content.
Yeah, for sure.
Good.
But for all things OMI and VeVe related, Dan is our guy. He's got this balanced and just straight up approach to the Ecomi project, which I really find very refreshing. It's often quite dispassionate. Don't be fooled by his YouTube thumbnails. But it's often quite dispassionate and kind of provides a healthy counterpoint when we get a bit carried away with things. So Dan, really pumped to have you here. And I think maybe what we were talking about just then while Dan was kicking it in the green room might be a good place to start. Matt, with what you were talking about what we're seeing after the euphoria. Can you'll pose it better than I can.
Oh yeah, I mean, I guess it's just interesting to see within the VeVe closed gem ecosystem, and I know, Dan, you're not a hardcore collector, but just seeing the psychology of the market cycle play out within that ecosystem. So that last euphoric stage was, I'm thinking it was about 4 weeks ago, maybe a little sooner than that. And now things feel a bit flat, and I don't know if they're consolidating, if that's the right word, but yeah, I mean, I'm actually really curious to know about your relationship between the two things, because we know that you're an OMI investor, but are you also a VeVe collector as well?
Yeah, so when I started this kind of journey, I was mostly focused on OMI token and crypto, because that's kind of what I understood and where I had a lot of confidence in kind of understanding. So probably the early part of 2021, I didn't care about the collectibles at all. Like, I think my first collectible that I finally got was like Marty's hoverboard. So I didn't realize people were making all kinds of money. And so it was only towards the maybe the latter half of 2021 that I started to maybe study the collectible market a little bit more. And I would definitely agree with you. There is kind of some parallels between a crypto market cycle and what we're seeing in the collectible market. And just like you were saying, a couple of weeks ago, there was an all-time high, right? All my collectibles were up. Things that didn't move were also going up in price. Like I had a board cube that I sold that wasn't moving at all, and all of a sudden that was pumping. So that's when you know something is going on. And if you look at all the indicators, like I think Pudding Cheeks has a really good Excel spreadsheet, you could see how much money was just flooding into the market. And that's what I think was responsible for raising all these collectible prices. So it's interesting to see it now where it's kind of come down. All these collectibles are still up, but the euphoria has definitely decreased significantly.
Where do you think that euphoria came from?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know. I think you guys would probably know better than me, but it seems like a lot of things were making big money, especially like these grails, the partner statues. Spider-Man was just making some record gains. And I think that a lot of the people on the sidelines or in the NFT space were kind of coming in at that point. And that's where I think we could see this flood of money. I don't know where it was going, but people were just buying things up. And, I think some people say it's the Pokemon rumor that we would get Pokemon in this month. That's what caused people to sell off and hoard gems. But we're also waiting for these spicy announcements that most likely will be a drop as well. So I think some of it is maybe related to, the Pokemon news. Maybe some of it is holding out for potentially a bigger drop in February. But also the broader market, the stock market, a lot of things are down right now. So there's definitely a possibility that it could be market related too.
Dan, do you see that? Do you see much correlation between movements in like collectible and comic prices and also the token, or are they entirely unrelated?
I feel like they're not related. Yeah, I don't feel like they're related at all. But then again, I don't really track prices of different things. But there hasn't been a correlation between a good OMI boom and also the collectibles going up in value and vice versa. So
I guess
I don't know.
I guess the reason I ask is, we can say that the prices of collectibles might be subject to outside influences, like what's happening in the stock market, what's the general sentiment, and yet I would have thought the price of OMI might be a more relevant lead or lag indicator for what's happening inside the app. I know that we don't have VeVe to OMI yet, and vice versa, but that will happen one day, hopefully. And so I would have thought that maybe there'd be some relationship for people who are anticipating that connection to be made and preparing for that, basically, that we would see some shifts in price and value in the same direction. But
I think once OMI is actually attached to the app where you can use it, potentially use it to cash out or buy things with OMI, I think that's when we'll start to see this different strategy, where I would almost kind of say it could be similar to what we see with Bitcoin and altcoins. When Bitcoin goes up in value, altcoins tend to drop. Once Bitcoin has hit some peak, there's a sell-off and people flood money into the altcoin market. I actually believe, I haven't talked about this publicly, but I do believe we will see that once OMI is
you
really
heard it here first on the thing to Donny. Go on, Dan.
I do believe OMI will have a correlation with the collectibles, where collectibles pump. Maybe there's a sell-off with OMI and then vice versa.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see, especially with like the utility program and MCP and things like that. So
our teachers are here just to distract people. And usually it's to distract a guest when they're in the middle of making a very good point. Hopefully we've succeeded right now.
Yeah.
Very proper and professional. The thing that, I was really interested to talk about with you, Dan, I might be jumping ahead a little bit, is this FUD thing that goes on in the community. Watching the community grow from, I've started investing in early March 2021. I don't know whether that makes me OG, but got interested in the project then, and I've started dollar cost averaging in from that point, and it's just, I've become more bullish as I've watched the VeVe platform take off and the amount of money that seems to be flooding into it and the interest in it. But yeah, there is a kind of feeling that it's almost, maybe it's because it's early days in a project, but you're not allowed to be constructively critical of a project like this. And if you do so, you can be shot down quite savagely. One of the things I really like about your channel is that you're very honest and you think very critically about these things. I'd love you to talk more about what you sort of perceive is happening now and where you think it's going, you know, in the future? Very, very loose, random question. I apologize.
Yeah,
for
yeah.
that.
So are you talking more from like a negative FUD perspective, or just kind of just thoughts on what's going on in general?
Well, I hoping to touch on both, but maybe just focusing on the FUD for now, and you know how that's managed, and I guess I'm always interested when, you know, it's almost like the founders of this project are beyond reproach, and I always feel like that's concerning when that starts to happen, because we know that startups are messy and things go wrong and deadlines are pushed back and all manner of things happen.
Sure.
But yeah, I'd just love you to talk
Yeah,
to that.
yeah. So I guess in general, I feel like the team has accomplished great things, right? From their own words, they have said that where we are right now is where they expected to be 4 years from now. So we're, from my mind, we're 4 years ahead with the budget and staff of a 1 year out type outfit. So from a token perspective, you know, the token has done very well. If you look at it from like December 2020, you know, it's up 25,000% or even higher, just depending, right? So really, we got in. When I say we, I mean me. I got in late. You know, I haven't captured those massive gains, but really, the OMI token has done well, and the team itself, you know, put out or made $107 million USD in revenue as a startup. You know, and they have all these licenses. So from my perspective, I think VeVe is doing very, very well. Now, from the perspective of maybe someone who watches this space and receives this news that we would get big things and these things get pushed back. I mean, I definitely think that's the kind of the root of the problem. I feel like the team hasn't had the greatest communication strategy. You know, I really believe that you should under promise and kind of over deliver, where I feel like maybe the team did the exact opposite, and that's where the FUD is coming from. To me, it's the not knowing when something is going to happen, despite what you told me, is what really gets me. You know, at the end of the day, they have delivered on a lot of the things they've talked about. Right, received the Marvel news, so that's great. Immutable took a long time. You know, there's a huge delay there, but we did see it at the end of the day. So now we're waiting on these other things. And I feel like on one hand, the community should be very appreciative of what the team has done, because I think they've done great things. But on the other hand, I do, my only reservation with them is that they probably should change their public relations or communication strategy going forward. That's my only complaint. And I will say, as a YouTuber, there is a lot of pressure to under or sugarcoat things that are going on, because a lot of us are friends with members of the team, or we have a lot of connections with them, and we don't want to ruin our chances of maybe getting an interview with them. You know, so we tend to sugarcoat things, and I would say I've done that as well. But you know, at the end of the day, I'm a fan of their work, and I'm going to have a more positive outlook in general.
I think one way to approach it is, I guess it's either a reminder or just informing a lot of people who have invested either into the token or purchased the collectibles to think like an investor or a shareholder in a company. Because the company, if you buy shares in a company, the company has responsibilities towards you, legal obligations that they have to abide by, and some of them have to do with reporting. And as a result, you do expect a certain level of sort of performance and communication from them. And it's a healthy relationship between the two, that you should be able to give your feedback and your recommendations because you actually want what's best for your investment. So,
Right.
and therefore you want what's best for the company to perform really well. So I think there does need to be a little bit of a mind shift. That sort of change of mindset about any sort of constructive criticism that that members of the VeVe community give is done actually in the best interest of the project. And you know, I like a lot of people have been sort of scratching my head in recent weeks, seeing people just yell at each other or yell at people from outside of this VeVe community who may have criticisms of the project, some of which are really legit, but people don't want to hear it. And we obviously want what's best, because with our project, our aim is to donate our proceeds to charity. So we want to see this this VeVe project do really, really well.
Right.
How do you think you go about, though, making that happen? So say someone in your position, Dan, you have a lot of subscribers. How do you use your platform to try to shift that thinking?
Yeah, it's difficult because on one hand, I've definitely made a lot of mistakes. I've been involved in multiple controversies, but on the other hand,
Let's start with the first. We'll reel them off.
Sure.
I'm just joking.
Yeah, I mean, there've been a lot of things. I think the first was probably that I can remember was the Ben Gadinzi interview with Foster Hilt. That was one of my first controversies there. The second, which I would say is more my fault, is the paper hand fiasco, where I made this big video acting like I sold, or like I was done with the community, and that was kind of a clickbait thing. So yeah, those are some of the controversies I'm not really proud of, but yeah.
that was the one that got my attention when you made that video. So it worked. I clicked, and I enjoyed it thoroughly.
Yeah.
But you were taking profits. It was fine.
Yeah. I mean, what I did wasn't wrong. Taking profits is smart with any investment. You have short-term positions, you have a long-term position. But I think kind of deceiving the community in a sense that a influencer in the space was completely done, I think that was really, really damaging. And I did learn a lot. And I've only been a YouTuber since April of 2021, and this is mostly a hobby. This is not a career for me. Necessarily, it's just a kind of a passion project. So I've made mistakes, and I've learned from it, and I think it's okay to potentially make mistakes as long as we kind of move forward.
I think it's that type of transparency that's very refreshing. And yeah, we obviously don't make any mistakes ourselves, right? We haven't made a single mistake at all on this project. But hopefully we can make some big ones.
Yeah.
Put out a big apology video. I think that's probably what we're aiming for.
It's interesting. James, you were talking earlier about feeling invested in the project, and I think it kind of talks around one of the big debates in corporate governance and in taxation about whether or not cryptocurrency should be treated as a security or as a currency. Dan, you're kind of nodding your head knowingly. I'm wondering if you've got any comments around if you're across that debate, and if you've got any insights on that front.
I don't really feel like I have too many valuable insights, but I think we are entering an age where you can't have the benefits of a security, meaning raising money to fund your project, without the obligation to the token holders or shareholders. Like right now, at the end of the day, you really probably shouldn't do that anymore. And I do appreciate what VeVe has done, because or Ecomi, because on one hand, yes, they did raise money in a way that probably could have classified them as a security, but they heard the warning from the SEC, and they changed their practices for the better to avoid any potential problems in the future. And I think that any sort of reputable company like Ecomi, VeVe, has to do that to remain solvent going forward, right? We don't want to be in a position where all of a sudden, the Ecomi has a big SEC case like XRP, and our token value basically goes to zero. And if that happens, surely VeVe collectibles would be affected. It would just be a huge mess. So I do appreciate them for doing things and mitigating things enough to actually have a long-term future. And that's partly where a lot of the FUD comes from, right? Originally we had OMI to NFT as a major cash out method. I'm assuming that was not security compliant, or, that's not a good way to do business. And so that's why we're waiting for this MTL thing. That's another piece of FUD as well, is that we've heard that it was going to be, early last year, and we've yet to have it, and we have no end in sight. Whereas, another competitor like Recur promised MTL, or at least for Americans, in February, and they received it, which, props to them. I do appreciate that sort of ability there.
Sorry, Neo, you go.
I got two questions, Dan.
Sure.
First is kind of like, so you mentioned earlier that that VeVe sort of they're at a point where they thought they would be in 4 years' time. So if we were to fast forward to 12 months and we look back, in your mind, what do you think are some of the projects or pieces that they need to implement to see the token shift? Or if they don't, do you see the token shift either up or down? And my other question is, in 12 months' time, will homegrown Josh Giddey be NBA Rookie of the Year for the Oklahoma Thunder?
I'm not a sports fan, I'll be honest. So
That's it.
which is kind of embarrassing. Yeah. Does he play for the Thunder?
He does.
Okay. I need to look. What's his name? I got to look him up for later.
Josh Giddey.
Is NBA really big over there in Australia?
No.
Any Aussies that are over there, they get a bit of a spot. They get a bit of attention.
But
Okay. Yeah.
especially
He is,
from
he's
Leo.
Australian.
Especially from Leo.
Wow. He's
You,
drafted.
you have, not to go on a segue, but you have the perfect opportunity to see some like homegrown Aussie youth develop into the next Michael Jordan, obviously.
Yeah. That would be amazing. Yeah. So,
But no, 12 months' time, like we look back, where do you think we are?
yeah, that's really interesting. I do anticipate that sometime this year, because we've heard that David, you talked about how we could potentially see over $1 billion in revenue in 2022. And I don't know if that's Australian dollars or US, but either way, that's a very impressive number from $107 million US. So in order for that to happen, you would have to almost have a drop every single day. And I do anticipate that could potentially happen this year. I mean, there was even a tweet that's what they said. We could potentially see that before it was deleted. So if that were to happen, we would burn quite a bit of OMI from the reserve wallet and things of that nature. So I don't know how you can not see that and not realize where the token is going. So I do anticipate some movement in the token kind of this year with exchanges, hopefully utility added to it, and all the burning. I mean, it has to move in price. Otherwise, we'll have no tokens in 2 years. Mm. Also, with the VeVeverse, I do expect a really kind of slow rollout where it's just the showroom, kind of like what they've talked about. But I do anticipate that we're going to see a major pump of the OMI token as well as collectibles once we have a VeVeverse, either secondary app or desktop app or something, because then it becomes a metaverse play. And, the metaverse is going to be increasingly more important and a major part of our lives going forward into the next kind of decade. So once that starts happening, and, it could take a year, maybe even 2 or 3 before we really see that. But I do anticipate the roots of that happening this year. And that's why I think it's really exciting. Even if the OMI token only gets to 2 cents or 3 cents this year, what they have in store is just going to be incredible.
I put all of my OMI into the VeVe wallet. Dan, have I made a shocking move there?
I did something very similar, actually, because I'm learning more about the collectibles, and I have an amount that's close to that max or actually exceeds that max. So I put all of it into the wallet as well, because I want to get an advantage in terms of getting these collectibles. And I think that having, 50,000 plus OMI in that wallet potentially could make things happen for me, So.
Okay. Well, you heard it first here, guys. I think we can say that that's breaking news. James's panic attack has stopped. That was a panic attack that lasted 3 weeks and finally subsided. If it's good enough for Dan, it's good enough for me.
You can't get them off the app, right?
Yeah, that's an issue, and that's something I did think about. It was because I said something like I want to wait until there's a bridge, right, so you can actually take it out. But at the end of the day, I didn't want to keep it on an exchange. I thought that's potentially more risky than having it on the app. And yeah, I just decided to do that kind of last minute. So
Yeah, I'm
like
the same
that.
as you. It was last minute for me. I was sitting on the can, and the four of us were going, oh, well, where have you put your OMI? And I was like, all right, it's on the Sendex. It's all good to go. And then I watched
Then you shat
Earth 2
yourself.
Mastery, and he's gone. I got that into delay, Joe, and then and he was like, I'm chucking it all on the app, and I was like, you know what? Let's just do it. Let's just do it. You've seen every other person say they're putting it on the app, and I always I'm extremely risk averse. So I was like, I feel that this is really risky putting on the app. So let's go against what my own body is telling me and go with my head, because this is what these other people are saying. So I was like, okay, let's do something that feels risky to you. And then that was literally, probably had about an hour to go. Like that window was open for about an hour or so. And I did it, and then I completely melted down and was just seeing these guys saying, what have I done? But yeah.
He was no longer on the toilet.
No. I was on the toilet a good 3 minutes before that hour was up. So 57 minutes on the toilet was enough for me.
Just hear him screaming on the toilet.
That's right. There's nothing sort of more sort of like manly than hearing just tears coming from a small toilet of a grown man. There's so many possible ways this could go right now. Like we're teetering on the edge here, Dan, of talking like facts and keeping it really straight, or going into silliness. I want to just veer into silliness for a little bit. Like, how do you decide on which extremely silly face to pull for your YouTube thumbnails?
Yeah, part of it is actually mostly why I do these silly thumbnails. People think I do it for views, and that's kind of the stereotype, is you got to have like a really surprised kind of look on your face in order to get views. But I mostly do it because it just makes me laugh, and I don't spend a whole lot of time really. I'll just put my phone up and just take a couple of crazy pictures, and if it makes me kind of smile, like that's what I use. And I think I'm getting a little bit carried away because I've been getting more comments on my channel like, this is getting ridiculous, and it's more like antagonistic. So I'm probably going to start to like dial that back a little bit.
Dan, unbelievable.
You are making fun of those that do the ridiculous faces, right? That's the point of it.
Yeah. People don't realize that.
Yeah.
Though, so they have to understand that. And I think so some of the YouTubers I talk to, they know this is kind of a big joke for me. It's like, I get some giggles out of it. But there's probably a lot of people that think I'm serious, or, I don't know what they think, but I'll have to dial it down a little bit.
You're so clearly trolling. And like, all you have to do is you see the thumbnail of you like, but then it's this really like composed video where you're just like very calm and methodically explaining it, and you're like, oh, okay, maybe I misread, maybe I saw something that wasn't there in the thumbnail, and then the next video will come up, and it'll just be, and then again, very methodical. It's like we appreciate it,
and part of it is, my early videos, I always had a funny intro in the beginning, and so part of it is kind of like a homage to that kind of humor I had kind of back then. I don't do it anymore because it takes up too much time, and some people think it's cringy. But that's what I did back in the day, is I would do these stupid skits, or I would make fun of another YouTuber and put that in the beginning, and then it was like a very clear and serious video. So it's anyways, it's me having fun with what I consider like a really fun, exciting hobby.
Hey, Dan, I have a question for you just with that in mind. What made you, I mean, this is something that we probably look in the mirror and answer ourselves, but what makes one...
Wasn't the perfect time?
I think his question is, and it's very existential, it's what makes one?
That's a great
in fact,
screen.
the other day, I was sitting there slightly distracted on my couch, and my 1-year-old grabbed my phone and started playing with it. And as he's playing with it, he's typed in these couple of letters on the keyboard, even though it was locked. He's like trying to press everything. And he's typed in BE, and it's brought up a dictionary definition of B. And he pointed at it and looked at me. I was like,
Wow.
oh, wow.
He's
The
going to
philosopher child.
Yeah, he really is. There we
That
go.
is
We've lost
awesome.
that completely. That wants to know what it means to be. But I reckon that what he was going to ask was what sort of put it into your mind to start creating content, VeVe related, OMI related.
Yeah. On one hand, I always kind of wanted to do it, and unfortunately, I would watch some YouTubers, crypto and otherwise, that I was like, I could do exactly what they're doing. So if I can do what they're doing, I should probably do it, especially since I want to do that, right? So
I asked you a question, Matt. I'm assuming your question was. I was assuming. Sorry to interrupt, Dan, but I was assuming that your question was, why did you become a YouTuber?
Yeah, what's
So cute how we finish each other's sentences now.
so cute.
Joe, I'm glad you've got the donate QR code on your face now. This was all planned on my part.
Dan
Sorry,
was mid-flow, so you'd said that you saw other people doing it and you kind of thought, I can do this myself.
yeah, because I would see some crypto influencers, and what they were talking about it was very superficial. And some YouTubers talk on a deeper level on whatever crypto, VeVe, OMI, whatever. And I realized if I could potentially do that, and I have a desire to actually do these videos, it's just something I've always wanted to do. And I realized I could probably do it. And then I started doing it. And I'll be honest, most of kind of... What happened?
I don't know.
Joe was putting his face behind the QR
I just
code.
cracked myself up too much with the QR code.
As you were talking,
Okay.
Joe
Go
was
on.
just standing there with his face behind the QR code
I
and
thought,
his shoulders.
I
And
thought you had a drink of water and the water would come out your nose or something. That was the sound.
this is just going off the rails. He's completely lost. He's lost. And Joe usually has the
Sorry,
best.
go on.
What's happened to
Go on.
you? You usually have the best poker face of all time. Like I usually cannot read you.
The QR
And-
code just killed me today. The QR code on the face, it's the little things.
Can you do it again?
Yeah, do it again.
He was like that for about at least a minute and a half while you were talking.
Oh, that's hilarious. I didn't even notice.
All right.
Okay.
This is I was interested in what you were saying, Dan. So let's keep moving.
Yeah. So I just started doing the videos, and really, it's not really the content of what the person is saying. It's the topic. Like the algorithm is really good at pairing people who want to watch a certain thing with whoever's saying that message. So part of that success really has been just because I'm talking Ecomi, VeVe stuff, and people are really interested in hearing that. So it could have been anyone, and there would have been some traction there. So even today, if you do a VeVe Ecomi channel, you're going to get quite a bit of subscribers and views from even very basic videos. So I just kind of got lucky in the sense that that's what a lot of people wanted to see, and then the algorithm just blessed me there. So
I think you're being very modest here, because I can tell you that isn't exactly true if you're putting out VeVe related content. We can speak from experience that our videos don't get too many views, but you're putting out useful content. Like there's a lot of people you can see who just put stuff up because they want to get some views, and it's sort of a vanity project. Whereas like what you actually do is really like super useful. I know it's such a cliche, but it is the classic adding value. You do add value.
I appreciate that.
yeah,
And-
without your insights there, people don't have stuff to go to that can help them with sort of, yeah.
Yeah, and I feel
Humility
like
is a way
another.
to base on later.
Yeah, and from my perspective as well, I feel like so many people are new to investing with crypto. So they're young people, not a lot of money in, but it's everything to them. And this community of YouTubers reinforce the fundamentals consistently around a project.
Mhm.
And even for me, who I've invested in other things in the past before Ecomi, I found it really comforting when, you know, it dropped like 80%, you know, after you sort of go back to the YouTubers and you're like, okay, the fundamentals are still really great on this project and they're constantly being reinforced by the community, which can be a
Yeah.
bubble if you're not discerning, of course. But
Right.
yeah, I feel like this community has a really good thing going on
And
with that as well.
you know, that's kind of why I started my channel as well, because when I started, there was actually a lot of FUD, right? Because it just kept on going down in price till I forgot what it was, like May or whenever we hit like 0.0014 or 11.
Yeah.
You know, even in those days, I was a little worried it could go lower, but I still slept pretty well at night. You know, I never thought that this was a rug pull project, even though the chart potentially could look like that, right? People were saying that. So initially it was just to, just hold on for a little while longer, and you can actually either get out of your investment with losing no money, or you could potentially, you know, gain a lot of value by dollar cost averaging. So that was my initial message. And that of course has changed because my audience has definitely changed as well. So
Where do you go to get your information, Dan?
yeah, you know, the best YouTuber I think overall is probably Taps Trades. I mean, he has a very analytical mind. So skills that I don't have in analyzing a business. So I do pay attention to his videos quite a bit. And also, Hello K actually puts out some very insightful things because he has actual like connections, and sometimes he'll talk about some of the things that maybe he's hearing, and so he's very well informed as well. But also, a lot of us talk to like a lot of the YouTubers and community members. We're connected either in Telegram groups or Twitter, so there's a lot of potential dialogue that is being had. You know,
I think it's there's someone I think one of the early people that Matt introduced me to was Crypto Rain, and
oh yeah,
and that was more like broadly related to like other tokens, but he got into the OMI token and he loves it. And then I remember back in it was probably March, I saw him first talk about VeVe collectible that he'd bought, and at that point I'd started buying the OMI token
wow.
based on
Wow.
what Matt was telling me. And so again, I was like, Matt's doing it. Why not? Let's do it. I'll get on board.
Never do anything I do.
I trust what you say. You're a discerning guy. And but I remember, yeah, Crypto Rain was talking about the fact he was buying these collectibles, and knew it was associated with the project they bought the token on, but I was kind of like, I wasn't into the collectibles themselves. I'm not like a Marvel guy. I'm not, haven't been a person who's collected this stuff in the past. And I'm kicking myself because 6 months later I started buying them, and I like went ballistic and started loving them. But back at that time, he was like, listen to me, this stuff is going to be big. These prices are going to go crazy. Like, you know, I think told at that point was like 100 gems or something. He's like, this is an absolute steal. And so it's a constant reminder, actually, I think, for me to remember, like, you know, for future projects, there's stuff out there right now that is sort of where VeVe is now. It might be there in a year's time. And these sorts of people who put out really, you know, cool content and really call it quite early are still really good people to listen to. How did, I guess that's like a really long-winded way of of getting into your sort of VeVe/OMI origin story. When did you first see that this token was something that could be a really good bet?
Yeah, I think I first got exposed to OMI through Andre Jick's YouTube video where he bought like $150,000 worth of OMI. And so initially I was like, well, if he's interested in that, then I'm interested. And so the more I did the research, and it took me a while too. It wasn't like I did 1 month of deep diving research and I jumped all in. It took a little bit of time for me to realize, but I was invested in it like maybe, a couple $1,000, so nothing too big. So if I lost all that, it wouldn't have been too big of a deal. But I think once they got the Marvel license and they announced it, they've been putting out stuff. That's when I really got incredibly bullish on what value these guys truly have, and especially with the VeVeverse component, which I'm very interested in. That's where my faith really kind of came into play.
Dan, we're going to be wrapping up fairly soon because we're coming up to the hour. I wonder if there's anything that we haven't touched on that you'd like to raise yourself, or anything you'd like to ask of us. Yeah, otherwise open up to everyone else to throw in a final question.
Yeah, I guess what's your next play? Because I know you've been hovering at the 5,000 gems for a little bit. What's the next play for you guys?
It's such a good question.
It's a great question.
Can you see on our blank faces that we don't know what it is? But Neo made a really good point, which was about we hold an Elsa, and we were kind of thinking, do we liquidate everything and then move up to the next thing we can buy? But your call, I think, was a really good one, Neo, which was like that Elsa could do crazy things in the next month or two. So perhaps we hold her, liquidate everything else, and try to get something with that. But I don't know. Have you guys had it?
I sent you that message this morning. Like, the Superman is within reach. It's like 4.5, 4.4.
Yeah.
And part of me is like, that could pump quicker than an Elsa, potentially.
Yeah.
I agree with that. I agree with that. Because I feel like you guys have done the hard work already. It's hard to go from $4 or whatever to flip your way here, but I feel like it gets easier once you can buy like a Grail or a blue chip. And I think Superman's a good one. I debate every day whether I should actually put some money into that.
And the tax is only 2.5 as well, which is
yeah. That's really interesting. Yeah, that's good too.
So
what about Ultraman? Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm more American, so I don't really have an Asian perspective, but I don't like that play. I don't like the Asian play, buying things that Asians would like. I mean, Asians might not even like VeVe. I mean, let's just be honest. I mean, I don't want to sound like I'm fudding here, but what if they don't like it,
Yeah.
So I think that's a very speculative play. I would rather try to target the American consumer versus what potentially Chinese people would like. I just think that's ridiculous.
Well, Neo is my go-to for all those insights, and Neo and Neo's like, Ultraman, baby, come on, get it, Ultraman.
I just got off the phone with Asia, and they're all in. As soon as there's updates.
On good authority. I sold them. I had 3.
Did you sell them?
The uncommon and the rare, and then I sold them to make a bit of a move that was actually quite good, but they, after not moving forever, they went ballistic like a couple of weeks ago, and that was another occasion where I was crying in the bathroom. So
can we talk about your favorite topic at least on this stream, James?
My favorite. Oh no, God!
Because you have to slip it in there.
Yeah. We haven't done it this time. No,
yeah.
we could get through. I reckon we could get through the hour without mentioning pornography. Oh wait, I did it. I always, Dan, bring up pornography as like from a technological perspective, in terms of like being an early adopter of every type of new technology that's out there. I never intend to get dirty. I never intend to talk about content. I'm just like, here is the early adopter of technology, and it always gets derailed. So every time I try to bring it up, it'll always, and try to like explain it with a straight face, it gets derailed. I freak out our guest, and then I lose track of my thoughts, and I just sort of.
On the other hand, the other day I was dialed into a Twitter stream where the very interesting question was being contemplated, which was whether or not devotion to VeVe and collectibles was in fact idol worship. And so for the more kind of God-fearing members of the VeVe fam, whether or not there was in fact some issue with their faith, the extent to which they were putting in time and effort to VeVe.
Can we not go down this slippery slope, Joe? Because I feel like regardless of whatever our position is on this, we're going to lose audience members and create lots of thing to Donny FUD. So I'm gonna go. No, a pun definitely intended, but I'm going to be completely agnostic about that line of questioning.
All right, duly noted.
Very good, very good. So we might wrap here, Dan, because we are coming up to time.
Sure.
But we really appreciate you jumping on this slightly mad stream. It's been a lot of fun having you on.
Thank you.
And yeah, we'd love to stay in touch with you if you will have us.
Yeah, definitely.
So people, thank you, Neo, thank you, Joe, thank you, Matt. We've got links to Dan's socials and YouTube channel in the show notes and the description below. But guys, it's been a lot of fun.
Thanks, Dan.
Thank you. See you next time.
You guys appreciate it.
Yeah.